I'm here with Dana French, our research expert. Hello, Dana. It's good to see you again.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you. Hope you are.
I am.
You have been very busy, we see, with this extensive Consumer Insights Now research. Thank you, as always, for your labors with this.
Absolutely. Happy to work on this project with you.
Well, thank you. It's always insightful for our readers. And what we're going to be doing, tell us a little bit, of Dana, about the research this time. Give us just kind of a quick introduction to what it involved, how you got started on it, and just what was part of the
Yeah,
process for you.
absolutely. So this is our fifth installment of our Consumer Insights Now Future Looking Plan to Buy Purchase Survey. The first time we worked on this jointly was in the fall of 2022. And so we have 6 reports coming out this fall, starting in September, rolling through October. And what we've done is it's really a future looking survey. The respondents in the study are all in the market to purchase home furnishings. For this particular study, it's between July 24 through December. So it's right now. These are folks that are in the market right now, consumers planning to purchase one of 23 home furnishings categories. So we ask about everything from upholstery to case goods to mattresses to decorative accessories. So this is a online quantitative study, and in this survey we surveyed 1,800 US consumers.
Mhm. When you did this, there are going to be 6 chapters of this essentially that we
Mhm.
are starting to run on, I believe it's on September 23rd through October 28th. So each successive week, there'll be a different installment as we usually do.
That's
So
correct.
tell us a little bit about this first iteration. It's kind of a broad brush perspective, it appears, as you've done in the past so expertly.
Yeah, it is. So this is really our overview report. We kind of highlight the products that folks are in the market shopping for right now, a little bit of details there. I analyze, right, who's buying, how much are they planning to pay, an overview of where they plan to shop, in store versus online, and then a few highlights of some of the reports that are coming. So later on, we'll have a report on the economy, also what's in their basket, what they're looking for right now and spending money on, what's really competing with furniture, as well
Mhm.
as we have a design study coming up, and then some focuses on mattresses
Yeah.
and a living room. So it's really an overview.
Excellent. And then I think that's a nice way to kind of introduce our readers to the subject because they can kind of catch a glimpse at the big picture while also anticipating some further deep dives, zeroing in on the different categories. But in this report, were there any surprises to you, Dana, in this initial report? Any familiar themes or anything new that came up that caught your attention?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the sofa still reigns. The sofa has been, in all the studies that I've conducted with you guys, the sofa has been the #1 product that folks plan to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So this data shows that 36% of second half 24 home furnishing shoppers plan to buy a sofa. And
Mm-hmm.
that 36%, so the numbers for sofa over the past few years have really hovered between 36 and 40%, but it's always been #1. And that still kind of reigns true. It really makes sense as the living room is still the focal point of the home. Sofas would hold that place.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's also where people tend to entertain. It's the place where people will kind of show off a little bit. And, we also noticed too that millennials in this survey also, once again, appear to be the largest buying group, which has been pretty consistent with, I think, almost most of our reports that you've done for us. What does this say to kind of to the industry that they are so prominent in this particular
Yeah.
survey?
Yeah, and not just millennials, but also Gen Z. 7 out of 10 buying households, so not dollars. Don't think about dollars here, but households that plan to purchase. 7 out of 10 of them are either a millennial or a member of Generation Z. which means that they're under age 44. So folks hear the term millennial and they think they're super young. The oldest millennial is currently 43 right now. Yeah, but there are various reasons, right? Millennials are, they're in household formation. They have younger kids, so they really have a lot more needs, right? As the older generations, Gen X and baby boomers are kind of, in different phases in their life.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. And I think, as people are getting into their 40s or early 40s to approaching mid 40s, they're kind of entering some of their prime furniture buying years. And you break down kind of what each group is looking to spend on what categories or where they're looking, what categories they're looking to purchase. We don't necessarily have to drill down there for purposes of this.
Yeah.
But when readers look at this data, they can kind of see by age group, starting with the kind of Gen Z and then getting into the millennial population, really what items they might want to focus on for those respective groups.
Exactly. And there are differences by generation. So the sofa is the number one item that all generations except for baby boomers plan to purchase. Number one with baby boomers is a mattress for their primary bedroom. But, there are differences beyond that, but that's just one difference that you'll see in the insights.
Yeah. And I think another promising thing for readers or people in the industry is that there are many categories. I think sofas and mattresses are among the top ones that people want to really shop in store and perhaps even buy in store versus online. Can you touch on that slightly?
Yeah, happy to. So overall, across all of the categories that we're tracking in this research, in-store accounts for 61% of purchases. So it's still the majority, right? That number, though, it's important to note, is down a little bit from last year. So last fall, the number was 64%. Share for in-store. In-store share is decreasing a little bit, which is something to think about. But as far as the in-store trends, the bigger ticket items and upholstery, as well as mattresses, skew in-store. And it's really the categories that makes perfect sense, right? That consumers want to physically interact with. It's the sit test. They want to lie down on it. It's the physical sit, test that they want to do and kind of kick the tires, so to speak, in store. So that's why those items lean that way. Whereas online, items like decorative accessories are a little bit more online. Occasional tables have a greater share of online buyers. So it's more the less risky products, right? Typically lower prices. And the advantage of online is true no matter what you're buying, is convenience.
Yeah.
And free shipping always kind of brings folks in if they choose that channel.
Yeah. Is there an opportunity, do you think, based on these numbers, if a lot of people are going into the store, a lot of retailers offer e-commerce on their own websites for some of these categories, these smaller purchases, cash and carry items, perhaps? Is there an opportunity for those retailers that are bringing in the customers to buy the higher ticket items, whether it's sofas, sectional, recliners, mattresses? Is there an opportunity for them to tout these other smaller categories that they offer on their website, so they kind of capture
absolutely that? Yeah, I think so. If consumers are aware of it, that's one of the tricks. When consumers think of online, their first mind's going to go to Amazon. So they need to know about it. They need to be aware. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Was always interesting to note is how people plan to pay for their purchases. And it seems like 0% continues to be those type of financing options are still popular with consumers. But one thing I thought was unusual is that the consumers don't necessarily, maybe they're not aware of, or they're not thinking of the retailer credit cards, whether it's through Synchrony or some other finance, some other bank. Did that catch your attention any when you saw that statistic?
Yeah. So for each product that consumers say that they have planned to purchase, we ask several questions around how they plan to buy or how they plan to finance it. One is the likelihood of using the 0% APR financing or, deferred payments.
Yes.
And the data shows that for the higher, kind of like shopping in store, for the higher ticket item, there's a greater likelihood that consumers are going to use that option to help with payments. So with sofas, for example, since we've been chatting about that, 48% say that they're very or somewhat likely to use the 0% financing for their sofa. We also asked, though, do they plan to pay in full, or, are they going to use a credit card? And I invite your readers to look at the data, but most say they want to pay in full at time of purchase. And then most saying that they're going to use a credit card.
That's interesting. Yeah. So they've got opportunities or options already in mind of how to pay for it.
I think there's opportunity for retailers to say, to offer that financing again, especially on the larger ticket items.
Yeah, it's a process of education and making sure consumers know it's available because, some people, they may not want to take all that money out of the bank right away to pay for something or to have it on a higher interest card. And if they could pay it 0% over 3 or 5 years,
right.
That's, and then, no interest if paid in full. That's a good opportunity.
And keep in mind, right, that the bulk of the shoppers are a little bit younger, right? So they don't have that money sitting in their bank more than likely. So it's a good opportunity for them.
Yeah, thanks for that's a great point. Thank you. One of the things I think that's interesting too here, and just kind of doing a look at some of the numbers, you've delved a little bit into where furniture is facing some competition, in terms of the consumer dollar. Was there anything that stood out to you as one of the biggest things that the industry needs to be aware of that is facing competition for the consumer's dollar?
Yeah, the number one adventure, I guess, or item that folks are purchasing in addition to furniture are U.S. vacations.
Yeah.
So it seems like, now remember, this study asked about buying plans from July 24 through December. So we do have that summer timeframe data, but vacations were number one overall. That's where folks are also putting their dollars.
Yeah. And it's funny because I looked at some data recently. I was really surprised on how little people actually put on a credit card to finance some of those vacations, which I thought was kind of unusual because if they've got the cash to spend, then that is lessening the amount they might have to spend on other things like furniture or other forms of entertainment. And lastly, in this discussion for our first segment here, was there any other areas that surprised you in terms of the research this time around? Some of it seems to be consistent with what we found previously, particularly with upholstery purchases, the importance of the younger consumer, for example. But what else stood out in your mind that was maybe,
Yeah, I think overall the data is very stable, which I think is promising for the industry. We have coming up in a couple other reports, and I know we'll talk about it. I asked some questions asking about those that were willing to spend more on quality product versus the more price-driven consumers. And I think, I don't want to steal the thunder for the upcoming reports, but I think that'll be some wonderful new data to give the industry of how they can, increase the buys of quality and the price points a little bit. So I think more to come there.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you noted too, the prices seem to be in line in terms of what people expect to spend by category with previous reports. And I was, Yeah,
it hasn't changed much at all. It's very, very stable.
But it sounds like, too, there could be an opportunity for retailers to offer their consumers, whether they're, millennials or Gen X, there's an opportunity for maybe to entice some of the consumers to trade up, perhaps based on quality and other attributes, functionality, for example. I think as they look at the data, as our readers take in all this volume of data, they'll be able to kind of read between the lines a little bit. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think one of the purposes that we wanted to do with this is really provide a playbook, direction where to go, and this will help for sure.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a wrap for our first video interview on this. Dana, thank you so much for taking time to do this Zoom interview. And we'll have this as a link in our story, and we'll continue in the same format with the remaining 5 reports.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, thanks, Dana. Appreciate it.